It's been said we have weak nations because we have weak families. And we have weak families because we have weak men. Men are an essential part of the direction of a family and a nation. This is certainly true with God's man, the leader. In Genesis 2, God took his man and placed him in the garden to exercise stewardship. Now, after the man had matured as a steward, God said, "It's not good for man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him." But God did not make him a helper immediately, which lets us know that God can have intentions to give us something or someone that will change our lives. But he doesn't, because we're not yet ready. Man is not yet ready. There's something else that he must develop. So God decided it was time for man to lead by naming his creation. God brought the animals to the man to name, and whatever man called them, that was their name from that time forward. Man was tasked with the leadership of God's creation and later of God's nations. Let us look at God's man, the leader. I want to make it simple as we hear it. God's man, the leader, makes the connection between his mind and his mouth. His relation to God's creation represents this connection. In order to make the connection, man had to spend some time with the animals, study its distinct features, and consider each animal in relation to nature and himself. Once he makes the connection, he can then give direction. At the end of the connection process, he must now communicate with words. The name he gives each animal guides how man from that point forward would associate with each creature. It is important to interject that maturity is a necessity to the connection. Here's an example. Moses was one of God's greatest leaders, yet we see in Exodus 2 that he had to grow up before he could see the injustices around him. The scripture says, one day after Moses has grown up, he went out where his own people were and he watched them at their hard labor. What does it mean to grow up? It means not being childish. The scripture reads, "When I was a child, I spake as a child. I felt as a child. I thought as a child. Now that I became a man, I put away childish things." Paul is saying it's okay to be childish if you're a child. God's man, the leader, has put away childish speaking, childish thinking, childish feelings. Maturity can be produced through many circumstances and situations that can be good or bad. When one matures, God's man, the leader, is able to make the connection with the world around him and the life inside of him. God's man, the leader, is now ready to give the name. The name points out or indicates purpose and path of the person being named. We see this takes place in the life of Jacob. He was named Jacob, which means heel grabber or schemer, because he was a twin born on the heels of his brother Esau, and later schemed and cheated Esau out of his birthright. Later, the scripture reads that God said, "Your name is Jacob. You shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel." Israel, meaning he who struggled with God. We know that Jacob wrestled with the angel in Genesis 32. So Jacob became Israel, and with much strife and struggle, Israel became a nation. So brothers, are you ready to be God's man, the leader? By maturing as a steward and making the connection with those you are directing, your family, church, or community, and afterwards pointing out their path and purpose by giving them a name. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, calls his own sheep by name, and he leads them out, and the sheep follow him because they know his voice.